Great.
Robin Fisher.
Here.
Kendall Moore.
Here.
Marcia Newell. Mike Herodopoulos.
Here.
Marie Rogerson.
Here.
Blaze Tredis.
Here.
Bob White. Tom Jenkins. Cole Oliver.
Here.
Sue Schmidt.
Here.
Jordan Chandler.
Here.
Vic Lupker.
Here.
Dave Newman. Matt Nye.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
All right, fantastic. And before we get started, if everyone could please turn off their devices so that we don't get interrupted, and we'll do our best to get out of here at a timely manner. We have a pretty straightforward agenda today. What I'd like to do first is the approval of minutes. Is there any objection to the approval of minutes? All right, without objection, show those adopted. We also have today, we mentioned last time about the necessary for a fiscal analysis of anything that's being put forth. And so we have Summer Wiley here who will kind of walk us through that process. Summer, welcome to the commission.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For the financial analysis direction here, Brevard County Charter 7.4.2 recommends or requires that the CRC shall obtain an analysis of the fiscal impact of a proposed charter amendment prior to the transmittal of the proposed charter amendment to the County Commission. This section was adopted and added to the charter in 2010. As the CRC did not approve any charter amendments in 2016, this provision has never been implemented. Staff has the following options to implement the fiscal impact section for the CRC to consider today. The county currently has 3 contracts that may be considered to obtain the financial analysis of any proposed charter amendments. We have an internal auditing contract with RSM, we have an external auditing contract with Cherry Beckert, and we have a financial advisory contract with PFM Financial Advisors. We have an hourly rate schedule for both RSM and PFM Financial Advisors. However, for Cherry Beckert, our pricing is based on a lump sum analysis. RSM's hourly rate schedule varies from $200 an hour to $270 an hour, depending on the position assigned to the task. PFM's hourly rate schedule varies from $175 per hour to $200 per hour, again depending on the position assigned to the task. Today's staff is seeking direction from the CRC on whether you would prefer that purchasing services develop competitive solicitation and advertise for these services, or if the CRC prefers that staff reach out to one of these three firms and negotiate a standalone task under the current terms and conditions of their existing contracts with the county.
Thank you, sir. Paul, do you have a question?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Maybe you could brief us. The charter is silent on what the fiscal analysis should contain, and maybe you could brief the board on what the fiscal analysis involves, just so they're aware.
Summer, thanks.
Let me see if I have that in front of me here.
It's let me turn it. Same thing, it is kind of silent on it. What we have when we do board agendas is we have fiscal impact on the budget agenda. So the standard assumption is we'd set to look a little bit is that you would develop some kind of impact. So this amendment would cost the county $50,000 a year. Municipalities anticipate a cost of $25,000 a year. It really, as I recall, in the reading the agenda in the charter, it just says you do a fiscal impact, and then whatever you guys want to do with it would be your decision. But you just have to develop a fiscal impact to go along with any charter amendment, and that would get presented to the board.
Long-term effects range, that sort of thing.
With that, does anyone on the committee or commission have any questions for Summer or strong opinions as far as the selection process for someone who might do that analysis for us?
I think it would
Sue?
be, I think it would be nice if we would receive some of that in writing.
That can be done?
Yeah, we can submit, we can give that to everybody. And then your next meeting is the 20th.
As of right now. We'll
Yeah,
see where it
true.
goes.
Correct, sir. Yes.
Yeah, depending on our workload, yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions for Summer on that? All right, thank you so much. All right, last time we went into the amended rules of procedure, I know, Blaze, you had put forth a couple of those items. Does everyone have a copy of those new rules of procedure in front of them? Okay. And as Melissa was kind enough to send all this out to us, I believe on page 4, Rule 16 is the one we looked at specifically. And Blaze, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you kind of walk us through kind of your thought process again, just so everyone is reminded. It's been a little while since we took this up, and we could take one final look at it if you wish.
Okay, the changes that I believe, my recollection is they were moved, seconded, and voted on, and got a majority vote last meeting, were Rule 16, which changed the number of affirmative votes required to change the policies from 10 to 8.
Correct.
And then on Rule 17, there was quite a bit of deleting of the previous language, which had to do with one member from each district having to be present for a vote on approval or disapproval of a proposal. So that was deleted, and only the first sentence of that prior rule was left, and it was left that 10 members must approve a proposal. And I think the easiest way to see it actually was by the email that was sent out, which has the strike through and the addition in 16 from 10 to 8. That's the easiest way to see it, I believe. But I don't know, my thought was that it's already been voted.
Oh, it has, and
Okay.
I mean, we've not been there for a while. I just think by
Okay.
bringing it up, everyone's comfortable with and understanding that changed the rules. I just want to make sure everyone's clear. Paul, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I have two comments to bring to the attention of the board. One is with regard to the 10-vote requirement on Rule 17, which basically is historic. Previous charter review commissions as well as the original Charter Commission, adhere to that same rule. The question came up in the procedures several times, and that is, if we are considering a proposed charter amendment and it's not ready for final approval, and 9 members vote to go forward with it, is it killed? And I will tell you that in the past, the way that they've looked at this is that it's only the final vote to transmit to the county commission that would require 10 votes. So I don't know if that's in step with what this board intends. The other comment I was going to make to you is on Rule 8, proxy voting, the last sentence, only those members physically present shall be entitled to vote. I don't know if that was intentional to put that in or not. It certainly is legally okay for you to do that. However, that's not really what the law is right now, according to rulings of the Attorney General. There are, and in fact, when I say the Attorney General, I mean a number of them that have served as Attorney General over the years. The Attorney General has ruled that in cases where there are, an individual member has a significant circumstance, that's the term that's used, about being able to attend or being unable to attend, that if there is a significant circumstance, the members of the board, in this case, the physically present members of this board, can vote to admit that person to attend by telephone. And the question is, what is a significant circumstance? The latest ruling of the Attorney General's office is that they leave that decision to those that are physically present. In past cases, they've ruled that being in the hospital, having a sickness, something of that sort. It's something that's more than just, well, I didn't feel like driving out to Viera today. Could be a significant circumstance, but according to the Attorney General, that would be up to you all. So I don't know if you want to leave that in there. We've had a circumstance with COVID on the increase again, and some people become somewhat nervous about attending meetings like this. Anyway, I'll leave those 2 points in your hands.
Thank you. I think just if I could start the conversation right now, unless I think we even had this discussion about this last meeting. I mean, I felt we were all pretty comfortable where we're at, and if the circumstance calls for it as we move forward, we do have the ability with the new rule we put in that with 8 votes, we can change the procedures anyway. So if we see this COVID situation continue on as we move forward, obviously I think we should address that. But at this point, unless Melissa tells us otherwise, as we get close to a meeting and we're at quorum, I'm sure we'll be fine. And as we know, every major proposal is going to have at least 3 public meetings, so we're not going to be making any major votes until down the line. So if it's okay with everyone else, I'll just keep it as is. And if we see a circumstance where we might need to have some folks join us by Zoom or Teams or what have you, we could do that unless someone objects. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, thanks for that information, Paul. Great work. All right, so the press release to the public, has everyone seen that with the red top on it? I think there's already been some news stories coming out as we're inviting folks to come and testify before the commission. I believe a couple of folks, at least one person signed up to testify today or make their comments known. As we know, this is a once in every 6-year process. We want to make sure that everyone is aware that they have the opportunity to have their voice heard, and that all the meetings are going to be well noticed so that people can make the accommodations to be here. So unless there's any objection to this draft, why don't we go ahead and move forward and put that in the public purview so they can get more involved in the meetings. Is that okay with everyone? All right. Without objection, show that adopted. All right. Next one is on the proposed meeting schedule. As you all can see also in your paperwork, our next proposed meeting is on the 20th of January, and we do not have anything before us except for the one item that came to our attention in the last few days that one of our commission members had put forth, and I know you have a copy of that. We can do, again, whatever the committee deems necessary. We can meet on the 20th and start discussing this proposal in full. I'm going to give Blaze the opportunity to kind of just introduce it so people are more familiar with it once they read over it in full while we're gone. Or we can cancel that meeting and move it to the 3rd of February if you don't think that that is a pressing issue. Again, we have a multitude of meetings scheduled. It'd be great if we had more of a workload, but at this point we do not. But I'll take it direction from the commission members if they'd like to have another meeting in a couple weeks, or we push to February 3rd. It's up to y'all.
I'm fine with February 3rd.
Okay.
I think that's probably the right thing to do, so it's publicly out there.
Yeah, so everyone's okay with canceling the January 20th meeting then? Everyone good? Okay. All right, so let's cancel that meeting for the 20th of January, that Thursday at 3 p.m. And our next scheduled meeting will be the 3rd of February at 3 p.m. Right here. Without objection, so that adopted. All right. Before we go to public comment, Blaze, you were kind enough to kind of put forth an idea. If you wouldn't mind just kind of explaining that through, and I'll get these next, just so we have, I don't want to get into debate about it. If you have clarification questions, just so we understand it. But I just thought since you put this good work in, we at least have a better feel for it when we take it up on the 3rd of February. So it's your floor.
Thank you. The written comments that were submitted, I think, really are detailed, and I hope they would be so that anyone who wants to study it or learn it would be able to read the comments and maybe have all their questions answered about what the intent is. But I'll briefly just describe it, and it's a proposal to change 2 sections of the Brevard County Charter to make it, I submit, even more clear that excess taxation imposed by a supermajority vote of the Board of County Commissioners lasts for only 1 year. And it's my position that that's what the voters intended to do when they voted in 2008. I think the language in the charter makes that abundantly clear. However, the Board of County Commissioners has taken a different position. And since 2019-2020 fiscal year, when a law enforcement multiple service unit taxation district exceeded the charter cap in that 1 year, the following fiscal year, and then in the following fiscal year, which is this fiscal year, so 2 fiscal years after that, that excess taxation above in excess of the charter cap amount became the baseline amount taxation for the coming years, which made it in perpetuity. And I submit that that's in violation of what the voters intended in 2008, but that's the position the county's taken. I think somewhat fortunately for me, at least in trying to write this language, there was a lawsuit by former Clerk of Court Scott Ellis challenging the board's decision to make this excess taxation permanent year after year. That lawsuit was dismissed on procedural grounds. The Circuit Court in Brevard County ruled that Scott Ellis did not have legal standing to sue, so the merits weren't reached or decided. But the Board of County Commissioners, represented by the county attorney, did address the merits of the lawsuit in their pleadings. And my language to change the charter is directly from the county attorney's pleadings in that lawsuit, where the county attorney suggested that Mr. Ellis would prevail if the county charter were changed in 2 respects. And that's exactly what this proposal is. It just mirrors what the county attorney argued would make it perfectly clear that the excess taxation because of special need or critical need or emergency is 1 year and 1 year only. So it's my position that it's unfortunate this even has to be made, because I think it was clear in 2008 what the voters intended. But unfortunately, that's where it's at, and there's no question that this change, if approved, will make the excess taxation only 1 year. Thank you.
Sue?
Yes, may we discuss and as to why we may be opposed to it, Blaze?
I thought what we do, I mean,
Just for informational purposes for the next meeting.
we got time. So go ahead. Yeah, sure, let's do that.
Okay. And it certainly has nothing to do with Blaze, because I have a lot of respect for him. But the wording in here and what has been used is the increase in law enforcement MSTU, so that you're aware, and a little history, the law enforcement MSTUs were created a number of years ago because of litigation. At the time, the funds were taken out of general fund, and which cities also contribute to. And at that time, the cities filed litigation against the county, and MSTUs were created because the MSTUs are strictly for road patrol, and that's all they're for in the unincorporated area, and that's why they were created. And so when the Board of County Commissioners, which I wasn't on, but I was on when that happened, when the Board of County Commissioners increased because of the MSTU for law enforcement recently, if you take that literally at what Blaze is suggesting in here, the following year, then it would revert back. Now, the sheriff, and when he asked the board for increase, they couldn't take it from the general fund because that also includes city money. And that has already been decided legally. So they would have no choice but to increase the MSTU because it's strictly for road patrol. He wanted to hire more deputies and also increase salaries and buy equipment for road patrol for unincorporated area. If you took this literally and did this, at that point the following year, if the sheriff goes out and hires those deputies or increases salary, he's going to have to lay those deputies off in the unincorporated area or cut their salaries. And I have a real issue with that, and I would guess the sheriff might too. The other MSTUs that you have are part of the budget when they approve it for your parks and recreation, but just looking strictly at public safety. And to me, that really is what being a commissioner is about. It's public safety for the sheriff in the unincorporated area, for your fire, your emergency services, and then you have your parks and rec and your roads. And the county commission is elected by the people in their districts, and that's why they vote the way they do, hopefully. I wouldn't swear to that, but hopefully they do. And to me, then to tell them the next year, well, I'm sorry, Sheriff, but now you've got to cut everybody's salary or lay off deputies in the unincorporated area, I think the people in this county would go nuts, in all honesty.
Well, I think that's why we'll have the discussion.
And I just wanted to lay that on the record.
The good news is we have many opportunities to that. Mr. Knight, I didn't think you had a point of view.
I just had one point of clarification. I mean, it's not just about law enforcement, it's the way this is being interpreted across the board, was my understanding. I know that was the one specific issue that brought this to a head, but just the entire concept of when, how is that calculated? So that's my concern. Is I understand the argument Ms. Schmidt just made, but I think these clarifications are necessary, and I think it'll save us a lot of money in litigation going forward. So,
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay, one more, and then we got plenty of time to do this later, but of course, Blaze, go ahead.
Just briefly, in 2021, the Florida legislature passed state law which prohibits a law enforcement budget from being reduced. I'll throw that out there.
Other questions or comments? All right, so one of the things that and I got here early and we talked with the staff a little bit is we already had, of course, Summer give a presentation, but I think will be really important in this as we have plenty of time to get into the issue, and every one of these issues will have at least 3 public hearings, is that we vote with as much information as possible. So one of the things that I've already requested, we did this when we handled property taxes about a decade ago, when we changed portability and the homestead, et cetera, was to try to, so that whatever side you're on, you have an understanding of how it would have impacted, not going forward, no one can predict the future, but you can look at the past. So what I'd like the county to do as much as they can, hopefully we'll need outside groups to do this, but would be the idea we said if this started in 2005 or 10 or 15, whatever it might be, where would our number be now for those different departments? It's always helpful to get a perspective on that, just so we understand what we're impacting. So I'd like that to be done, if that's okay with them. And I think that's to just be important so that we understand good or bad where that might go. So at least we can make use of the folks who handle financial issues like that. And I wouldn't be surprised, given the emotions on both sides and how much of an interesting debate it was last time when it was almost in the courts. I'm sure we'll have a lot of folks coming to say their piece on it. And of course, the good news is that if we pass it or not, or we do pass it, it goes off the county commission and later vote or so. But I think it's always beneficial if we have as much information as possible. So if you do have some folks who really want to come and testify, I think that would be helpful. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some of our constitutional officers come in to let their piece be known as well. But this is an important issue, and I'm glad you brought it up early, because this will give us plenty of time to discuss it starting on February 3rd. All right, yeah.
Just on that
Mr.
subject.
Fisher, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on that subject, is it possible to have I don't know if it's the county attorney's office or our charter review attorney, but to figure out what other counties has the same provision? Because if I remember correctly, we're one of the few counties that have this charter cap.
Okay.
And so I would like to at least get an understanding too, who else has that, and does it still make sense to have the charter cap?
That's an excellent suggestion. So let's try to find out which other counties in Florida have that already in place, and we can look at how that has impacted their budgets and how they handled this conundrum. Any other comments or questions? All right, we have 2 folks coming to speak. Carol, you were up first. I have a unique last name, so I won't pronounce yours if you don't mind pronouncing yours as well. And we're not going to put you on the clock, but if you could just be respectful of time, and if we have questions, we'll give those to you. Welcome.
Definitely, thank you. My name's Carol Vyhonsky. I live in Melbourne. I've been a Brevard County resident for 21 years. I'm here to speak tonight on Article 5, Section 5.2 of the county charter, which deals with recalls. I'm here to request that school board members be added to the language of elected county officers subject to recall under this section. Some people say that school board members cannot be recalled in Brevard County because the charter does not allow for it. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. But one could certainly argue that school board members are elected county officers. Even though they receive their paychecks from the state, it's the voters of Brevard County who elect them into office. The same as we elect the county commissioners, the sheriff, the property appraiser, the tax collector, and so on. The decisions made by the school board certainly affect all of Brevard County. For example, the half-cent sales tax that we all pay to the schools. Why should they have blanket immunity from recall? The same voters of Brevard County who elect the school board members should also be able to recall them according to the charter, just as the charter allows for a recall of the other county elected officers. Therefore, I'm asking that you consider adding school board members to the language of Section 5.2 as elected county officers who may be recalled in the manner provided by general law. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Carol? All right, we also have Catherine Delaney here as well. Welcome.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Take your time.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Catherine Delaney. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to serve our community. I'm a Brevard resident. I grew up here, graduated from Rockledge High. I'm here to request that Section 5.2 of the charter gets revised to include school board members. As elected officials, school board members should be included in the list of constitutional officers that are subject to recall. Thank you so much for your consideration and your time.
Thank you. Jim, let me ask a question of the staff. If someone does have an interest in this as a public citizen, do they literally give that information to the county staff and they write it up for them? Or do they have to get an outside group to write up a legal document?
I was thinking the same thing, Mr. Chair. I will double check 2010. I believe you had public come up in 2016 that they came up and with their own proposals. And I made a note on our form to add to the website, just like Mr. Trades has the agenda item, that the public can fill out an agenda item. We'll give a contact. They give it to staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that way then you can have it in your package for the, if you guys want, we'll just add a subject in their proposals, and then you can take a look at any proposals that the public would submit. I mean, that's a suggestion if you like that.
I would support something like that and be willing to put that forward, but that was going to be one of my questions was, obviously, this is going to be subject to review by council, I'm sure, as far as is that, like, yeah.
If you ask for it, we'll review it.
So, I guess I need to put in the proposal first then, and then we'll.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
should we consider
Oliver?
having at least one board member sponsor the item to be heard by the whole board rather than, everything that comes in being heard if it doesn't have any support on the board? Right.
I'll volunteer for this one if that's.
Yeah, again, I think this is one that's been very much in the public eye, and so I think it's always a great idea. If one of the commissioners likes the proposal, if they can kind of take that initiative and work with our legal staff to make sure it meets all the qualifications so we don't get into that squabble after the fact if we choose to support it. That's a great suggestion. Please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like my proposal to be published on the county's website on the page that's dedicated to the County Charter Review Commission, so that the public will be able to read it. I don't think it's there now, but I think it should be there, so it's available to anyone who wants to look at it.
I think all proposals should be on there shortly, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
In
yeah.
2016, that's how the proposals are put on the website, the same page that has all your contact information and everything, so that will get on there.
Absolutely. I think it's a great suggestion, yeah. All right, any other comments? Ms. Fisher?
I had one thing. I don't understand, and I don't know if we should ask them to, one of them to research it for us, but I'd like to have a better understanding how term limits came into play, and if there was a proposal to eliminate term limits or make them a longer period of time. Is that proper to ask our attorney and staff to look at that? Or
I think it'd be more than accurate. I mean, in the legislature, we would always have a full proposal of how something became a law. So I'm sure it would be difficult for us to find out how that proposal started and so forth, and we'll get that for you. If we could send that information out to the commission members before our next meeting, I think it'd be very helpful. And if there's any other issues that you want the staff to research, I think this is why they're here. They want to make sure they're supporting us and can have constructive meetings. And I think the other one that we kind of got into, I know Paul brought it to me before the meeting, we need to be very, very sensitive to the sunshine law. And so what I've done, I've received a few different emails from folks. I immediately send it over to Melissa so it could be shared with the entire commission. So there's not kind of side conversations going on, and everyone's kind of well aware of it, just in an abundance of caution. I mean, clearly we're going to have every proposal go through so many times in here. That's a great thing, but let's not leave any kind of wiggle room on things if we can't do things correctly. So if you do receive an email, send it over to Melissa. She'll pop it out to everyone so that everyone is well aware of the issues that might be discussed in the meeting. It'll just make it that much more productive. A great proposal. Thanks, Robin. All right, without any further questions, Ms. Rogerson moves your rise. Thank you. End the meeting.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.